Hello. It looks like we're live on the internet. This is so cool. Always dream about this. Hello, Marek. Nice to see you.
Hey, good morning, Radek. Good to see you.
So hello all. It is going to be both exciting and awkward conversation. Exciting because I think it's a really cool topic, relevant topic, close to our hearts, digital acceleration, something that we as a company try to strive on with our customers. But also awkward because we talk with Marek daily or even every hour. So it's going to be pretty funny to discuss this with people here online. And why we're doing this? So many reasons, but the main reason is something very close to my heart. That is my mom. And my mom asks often, Radek, what do you do for a living? What Netguru does? And this is for me kind of an issue because it's pretty difficult to explain. And when I tell her, mom, we do digital acceleration for our customers, and she's, well, what's the digital acceleration? And then it becomes a problem. So we have a CEO, Marek. What's digital acceleration?
So that different ways to answer it. I mean, there's a way that we can tell the story to our moms and grandmas and grandpas, and maybe I will start with this one. And the way I answer the same questions to my family, what we are doing, what I'm doing. And the challenge is that digital acceleration is a relatively new term. So before that, there was something called digital transformation. And in the very beginning, when this digital transformation was at peak, it was a concept where there were companies that were offline and they were trying to move to digital. And this was like pretty easy to explain. So you are thinking about a bank. A bank is a place where you can go physically to open a bank account, to ask for a loan, to get a card. And like 10 years ago, this is the way we were interacting with banks. And since then, banks are going digital. So right now, you are most likely only using your mobile application to connect with your bank. You can do everything there, essentially. So that's transformation, transforming something from physical to digital. But the thing is that, especially after the pandemic, there are not that many businesses that are not digital anymore. So all the banks we think about, all the major banks, I don't know how often are you going to a branch. I haven't been there like in years. And the only way I interact with such institutions is via the internet, via applications. So as there's essentially no need to transform anymore because either all the companies transformed to digital already or were born digital. Right now, what the companies need is to accelerate. And if you think especially about the last 2 years, the world in a way started spinning much faster. So very often we see challenges which are very transformational. So COVID was the first one, then the huge changes on the employment market were the second one, then the uncertainty, geopolitical uncertainty and the war in Ukraine is the third one. Right now there's uncertainty around the financial stability of the world and the economy. So there are many like tectonic or very impactful changes to which you need to adapt really quickly. And also, if you think about the other side, about your users and your consumers, they also have changed their behaviors, and all the companies had to adapt, and they had to adapt extremely quickly, and that's why acceleration and the way that we more and more use essentially any service is digital. That's why digital acceleration. So essentially, what digital acceleration is the way for companies to be able to quicker respond to the changes on the market, the changes in consumer behaviors that are right now much more frequent than they were before.
So I like this story, but as a person at the table with my mom, kind of naive, I like your explanation, but it's mostly explained from the business side, right? So the businesses had to adapt, right? Or this transformation became faster. But I'm looking when we're talking about those, offline bank branches. I get them because I'm very experienced manager, 41 years old. I remember branches, but someone who is, for example, our employee is 24 years old and is using his bank account at Revolut. Revolut was founded, I just took a look at 2015. It does mean that person never could be in any kind of a branch, right? There is no other banking experience than digital. So it's not only the businesses have to adapt because the time is progressing, but also consumers don't know anything else than digital, right?
Yeah.
So the whole
Absolutely.
concept of digital transformation for them, it's like kind of, sorry for being blunt, like idiotic. Like, what do you want to transform? Everything is an app. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's ancient. It's true, and all of those. So it's like we can think about those three generations. There's our generation, there's the younger generation, and there's our parents' generation. So our parents' generation, what's for me mind blowing is that it's not only that we are not using branches. The youngest people, they don't know what it is, but even our parents change their behavior. So right over the last 2 years, we are much more eager, everyone, regardless of age, to use digital products. So this gap or the gap to use or the fear to use just disappeared. And then if you think about the youngest generation of consumers, they not only that they expect that everything will be digital, but they also expect that everything will be top notch. Like all the other apps they have on the phone, everything has to be top notch from the UX, UI, actually essentially all the aspects of the product. Otherwise, they will not use it. It's also a big change versus what was there before.
And one interesting thing about this change that we've discussed with a few of our customers is that there is a perception, maybe based on the reality, that the whole change started in consumer market, right? So companies like, let's say, Uber or Karim or the Delivery Hero, where they kind of reinvented and accelerated how we do some stuff using mobile phone. Some of the, let's say, incumbents tried to copy them or get to where they are, but it's all underlined about the demographics, like people who are 25, 30, they don't know anything else. They just will crave, they want this experience in a consumer space. But the interesting thing is that they are right now decision makers in B2B space, in business side, right? And they are used to the same quality of experience, streamlined processes, or they expect the same quality in their work environment, right? And it has an impact on the tool set, how we do stuff, how processes change. So if you could tell, what are your views about this aspect, like how the workplace is changing, how businesses have to adapt in their internal stuff?
Yeah. So very often we try to question new trends and think if they are good or bad. And for me, like if we get back a bit to digital acceleration, it's a lot about accepting the reality. We have to accept that the world is changing, it's changing rapidly, and that we need to adapt. And the world wants us to move faster. The world wants us to adapt quicker to changes. And this is essentially how the entire world is changing right now. So if you are asking about the changes to the workplace, it's yet another area that changed dramatically over the last 3 years. Like at Netguru, we have always been a hybrid company where most of the people were remote, but this wasn't the case for most of the world. And then essentially overnight, the world changed. And right now, not everyone wants to go back to the office, or many of us don't want to go back to the office. I mean, both of us, we are recording this from home. So it also says something. So I think the change is right now that the consumers and the employees, they drive us even more than before. And it's us businesses that need to accept the changes rather than try to fight them and see how we can leverage them and how we can live with them, how we have to adapt. Is this what you were asking around the workplace, or there was another aspect?
Yeah, that's a cool aspect. One thing I observed is regarding especially how we our team at Netguru collaborates with each other and the tools we are using, how it is super important for any business-focused software. It is important to be great, or again, top-notch, or to be market leader, to be outstanding, to accelerate than the other tools. I will mention 2 examples here. So we are using Salesforce internally, which is a great tool, right? But the customer-facing interface, but also some quirks of at the admin level, how the software is built, are kind of ancient. Do our teams love this? They tell us they love because we tell them they should tell us this. But honestly, I would assume that this is very tough love and hate relationship. But there are other similar tools, right? That they were being built much later on, and they are much more accelerated in terms of quality of software, quality of the UI, the details. And let's use it's not the same category, but it's again some tool that big organizations use. It's a Slack, right? Slack is being loved by the new wave of workforce. Slack is a tool that if probably the NPS would be very, very high. And the question is, our the thesis is that it's not enough, like Salesforce, to be digital. It's not enough that you are in browser in a cloud. You have to accelerate faster to create to be the top-notch thing, and to be fast or ahead the market with introducing new stuff that your audience wants. And this is a bit of different, I would say, paradigm, that sometimes it was just enough that you were there, right? And this example of banks you've mentioned, I remember how cool it was that my bank allowed me to transfer money fast online, but also till this day, I can tell how difficult it is, and how much I maybe not hate, but I just don't like this experience. And then my current bank, which is ING, built this mobile application here in Poland. I don't know if it's in Europe or globally, but this Polish mobile application is basically great. It accelerated in front of the market. And I love this. I would give it a very high NPS. And I think this is their advantage. What I understand is they are investing heavily in those teams that are producing this customer-facing experience. And right now, hopefully, they are accelerating in terms of business, not only in terms of how I perceive them.
And I think you mentioned something pretty important, also something pretty new to the market, that there are more and more users that are willing to change the bank just because of the mobile application.
Totally.
And this is what I did last year. I was using a bank, I will not go into right now. I really hated the experience that I had with it online, so I stopped using it. I switched to something much more modern, where it will be working seamlessly. Because the challenge I had in the old one was that the online payments, they were sometimes not working. That's, I think, the worst you can do to a modern user. And that's something new, because if you look 5 years back, most of the users and clients were thinking about the core of what the company is providing. So in terms of a bank, whether you have an account, whether you can have a card. But today we are okay to change a bank just because we don't like the app, and that's pretty dramatic change, actually.
Right. So those standard features that you mentioned become maybe not obsolete, but the secondary.
It's commodity. Yeah, it's commodity.
Right.
Everyone, and right now it's so easy to spin off a new bank by using like a banking as a service approach, where you just lease architecture. That's just the fact that you can lend money is nothing special.
Let's me go back to our talking points, because we've been pretty well prepared, dear audience. So I'm looking at my talking points, and of course we've discussed COVID, right? That the pandemic changed everything. Sectors had to accelerate, right? There was a struggle how to introduce, I don't know, digital signage fast, or different value-added propositions, or contact your financial institutions via mobile interface, that kind of stuff. But I'm also reading about quick commerce, or here I'm reading about drone delivery in Sweden by the Delivery Hero, or I am reading about contactless stores, for example, opened by leading convenience store chain here in Poland, Żabka. And I am wondering, and clearly this is digital acceleration, but my question is it acceleration that is serving the current market, or they are already fighting ahead of the market, trying to predict how the market will look like? So, they're leapfrogging, right? So let me rephrase. It's not enough to have a great e-commerce that you can shop, or to get a food delivery. It has to be drones, with lasers in 50 seconds and contactless. And maybe, this is not yet the market, but at least those companies who accelerate, they're trying to find the new thing earlier than the others. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, the fact of companies betting on things and experimenting is not new. I think what's more new is the fact that that right now everyone tries to do it really fast. So the speed of innovation, the willingness to have a prototype within months, if not weeks, is something pretty new. And actually, like, as every dramatic event, pandemic was also a place where new industries were born, new products were born, new ideas were born, new startups were born, and or even made unicorn. And all the things you mentioned are definitely not only a reaction to what the market changed to be, but anticipation on how it will evolve. So right now we are not ready for drone delivery yet, but we expect that in a couple of years this will be our reality, and it can be our reality because technologically we're not that far, really. And I think it's more an anticipation whether the users will be willing to use it when there will be enough benefit, rather than whether things technologically will be possible. Because in all of those areas you mentioned, the technology is there or can be there pretty easily. The question is whether the market is ready. But what the other thing that changed, and it's for me is really, really interesting, is that from the user's standpoint, our willingness to try new things is much higher. So right now it's like this paradise for innovators, where people don't have so many fears to use innovation, that we are more eager to experiment, because if we think about the last 2 years, we were constantly experimenting and going over our comfort zones because we had to. Like people that didn't use online meetings had to use online meetings. People that didn't use communicators had to use communicators. People that didn't shop online, they started shopping online. Anyone who was carrying cash started using cards. So it's a huge change if you think that it was only 2 years. And it's going to continue because we got used to such a pace, and it's going to carry on.
So that's very interesting topic. I'm seeing the comments. I will get back to them soon, but I just wanted to touch upon one thing that got me interested. Somehow you explained it, but I think it needs more explanation. So how fast is fast? Right, you've mentioned 2-year time frame of the pandemic that impacted the whole industries. You've mentioned that sometimes the prototype has to be delivered in a given time frame. But how to quantify this? How to talk with business leaders and define, are we fast? And also how to measure against competitors. Are we fast enough?
It's a good one. I mean, you will not really know until you create this first prototype, because fast is usually in relation to your competitors that are trying to be as fast as possible as you are, and the users, whether they will be willing to wait for this new thing to be delivered. So I cannot really quantify it. I mean, it's much faster than before. I don't know, like 5 times faster than before. I don't know if that's helpful.
Marek, so as I said, we have talking points, and I will tell you how fast is fast, right? But it's again, I'm answering my own question, but this is something I strongly believe in, and this is something I strongly pitch. So basically, fast is tomorrow, and it means, of course, it's a kind of a joke, but not fully. So why tomorrow, right? So if you look, especially in the bigger organizations or already organizations that are achieving something, it is pretty easy to get tangled into different processes, decision-making stuff, building, different layers of management, this and that, right? But the fact is, when the pandemic happened, like a super external force happened, many businesses could make a decision like in tomorrow we are deciding on this, and the next week the team was assembled to achieve something. And we know this because we've seen this firsthand. We were part of this very storm as a partner to our customers, right? And now the pandemic has ended, and maybe someone will say, oh, now we need to go back to this longer, safe, secure decision-making process, which I'm saying like, no. The acceleration is there. The consumers' behaviors did not change. If you want to go faster, you need to start tomorrow. And of course, it does not mean that you have to spend gazillions of billions of dollars on idiotic features tomorrow. It is rather to have this mindset that you shouldn't wait, right? And even if the idea sounds very egregious and doesn't make sense on the paper, in my view, it is better to start prototyping something tomorrow and see if it makes any sense, even on pen and paper, maybe some simple stuff that you can show to your customers or business partners, instead of evaluating, looking at this. And I think this is the key idea acceleration I believe in, that and it proved in the pandemic, when once you have those external forces, you can move very, very quick, like comparing to the previous years, lightning fast. And I'm very interested if this is going to stay on the market, like if this approach is going to be there for the next, couple of years, that this need of immediate change is in the minds of execs and the companies, right? And also regarding this tomorrow, so and we spoke briefly about the neobanks. So the key thing is, if you're already established institution or a big organization, where your competitors, they don't hesitate, right? They start tomorrow because they have no other option. This is their only advantage. Your advantage is it's organization power, your organization is cash flow, your access to the market. So only thing is blocking you is basically starting tomorrow, just like your smaller, not yet established competitors. And this is my pitch again. This is my value proposition, I often say, right? Why don't we go tomorrow with something?
Yeah, thanks, Radek. And I think it's something that we have seen over the last couple of years. I mean, if you don't start really quickly, it will most likely be too late. And like let's go back in time again. Like in the past, it was very often that the company that was like the 5th or the 10th or the 20th on the market was winning the market and capturing the market. Right now, what we are seeing is that this first mover advantage is much more important than it used to be. And more often than before, we also see these new markets. So quick commerce can be a great example. It's something that we have been not thinking much or not accelerating on much before the pandemic. Right now, it has a ton of unicorns with a lot of money to experiment on, players that are there that have over 1,000 employees, moving really fast, exploring markets. And what's really interesting is that the companies that are first this time, they are still leading. It's not that the first ones were usually the ones that are going to lose because they experiment and they're going to fail. This time, the first players are expanding their reach.
Sorry, Marek, to interrupt you. I think either your phones are dying, or we can hear some noises. Could you mute and unmute yourself?
Maybe I was too close to the mic. Is it better?
No, I think you should mute and unmute yourself. Try this one.
All right. How about now?
I think your iPhones are dying. Sorry. I think so. AirPods, sorry. Again. So we have this interruption when Marek is solving his headphones issues. So I will read out questions from the audience and I will try to answer them in the meantime. So let's find the first question close to my heart. Do you have any tips for companies who would like to transform their organization into more digital? Asks Zofia Musiał. So first of all, not to transform, but to accelerate, Zofia. Transformation is like 20th century, and we're living in 21st century. We accelerate. So my tips for acceleration would be start tomorrow. It's funny because it's true. So that's a one thing. The second thing is, I would say, try to really count your bureaucratic overhead of a decision-making process and too much thinking about how stuff should cost, what's the potential hit on a budget, instead of starting something very, very small, very, very quickly. Usually something of value can be delivered in 30 or 60 days if you focus, and unnecessary meetings of management teams can be much more expensive than those 60 days if you give people freedom. My other tip would be to look at those top pesky startup companies that your employees are using either for fun or for work after work, because usually it means they are onto something. Many of the businesses or many of the new stuff that is right now a staple of good business were perceived as toys or something as not important, but rather used by silly people at the very beginning. It tends to happen that those silly young people become very powerful consumers or business execs. So I would look at what are the trends at the very younger generation of people using different devices at your company. So that would be me. Question from Dominika Błaszak. You've mentioned food delivery, banking. Are there any industries where digital transformation won't work? And I understand that you mean that this slower process of approaching stuff versus accelerating. It's a great question. I think I can mention first the businesses I think where you should approach things more slow and diligent and secure, and maybe with a closer eye at safety and security. For example, automotive. I know for a fact that many people are not happy about how the not the mechanics, but the electronics or software of modern cars is interacting with them. They don't like it. But also what we tend to forget, that any changes in the software or how cars are being built have a potentially huge impact of safety of the people. So I don't think it is feasible to move fast break things into in such industries. Maybe healthcare is another example. What I think, what I believe, where the lines of businesses that are ripe for digital accelerations are, I think, are all also all types of software that are being used in a modern office and have a very strong legacy flavor, and the current end users are super unhappy with using them, but they have to use them. So I will give you some of the examples that I think prove my point. companies have perks delivered by the HR teams, and those perks could be unlocked by different, not so much customer-friendly systems, and could be unlocked by very long process of filling out the forms. Or it can be a top mobile application that just sits in your phone and just unlocks stuff that you like in a second. And if I'm looking at what's happening on the market or even internally at our company, I think such systems could accelerate much faster. So payroll, things around that, how do we book travel, that kind of stuff internally, B2B, those things are ripe for acceleration. Marek, have you solved your
I don't
problems?
know, tell me. Is it any
it's
better?
Much better. It's much
It's
better.
Much better. Okay.
Much better. We've accelerated.
So I will start by disagreeing with you. I don't see why the automotive. Good luck. How the automotive or the healthcare industry is not a good fit for accelerating. I mean, think about the way you interact, or first of all, it accelerated. Like, think about the way you interact right now with your doctor. Aren't you using mostly phone consultations rather than physical meetings with them? This is how I use and interact with my doctor. So it accelerated to the degree which we didn't think was possible, again, because we didn't have a choice. And I think there is much more space to accelerate still, because many of the ways we interact, either with private or public healthcare systems, they're really far from the experience we are used to in other parts of the digital world. So I think there is space. I accept that there are areas where life is at stake, and those definitely need to be taken good care of. But there are many other aspects, or the service-like aspects of the healthcare market, where acceleration is not only possible, but very desired. If we think about the automotive, on one hand, you are right. I mean, there are concerns whether those cars connected to the internet, they are safe, whether it's easy to break into them. But at the same time, we do have autonomous cars on the streets in many countries. Many cars are connected to the internet, and I think the problem is that there was not enough digital acceleration there. So many of them are using.
My Volkswagen can predict the weather if I connect.
I don't know. I think internet can predict the weather more than your Volkswagen.
It says it's going to be rain, but after 3 years, this module was switched off because I did not pay some kind of a fee.
So you see, So you have subscription in the automotive industry. That's new.
Very good value proposition to tell my car what's the weather. Maybe next version will be a bit upgraded. We'll see.
Yeah, but this introduction of subscription model is a big thing. I mean,
correct.
There are features much more advanced than weather. Like, for example, whether you can connect your iPhone to your car is also a service that my father-in-law in his Toyota, he had to pay for it, subscription based. So I don't know. I think there is acceleration happening there, and I think this will just speed up in the coming years as well. So I don't think there's any industry that is safe from it.
I see a good question from Mary. What's the fundamental difference between digital transformation, digital acceleration of digital product delivery? As creators of digital experiences, we are always after excellence. We always wanted the client and the end customers to be satisfied. Could you highlight the difference in the approach, Marek?
Speed. Just one word.
In more detail?
I can try. But speed is the difference, the main differentiator. Even if you think about what digital transformation was, it was a process that was usually quite lengthy, quite sequential, where you planned how to move slowly from offline to digital. When in digital acceleration, it's a process that takes weeks or months, not years. So speed is definitely something that's very different. Then the fact that digital transformation used to be much more sequential. So first you made your business decision, then maybe you made some designs, then maybe you implemented something. Right now you are doing everything at the same time. and all those three areas that interact with each other. And it has huge advantages, actually, because I remember a number of projects we were running where after we got some designs from a client, it was impossible to be implemented, or after we got some business concept, it was really hard or really expensive to create a product out of it. And right now, as you have all of those phases happening at the same time and interacting with each other, you can make it to the biggest benefit of both the end users, but actually also the client and the budget and the timeline. I think it's a leapfrog change, which at the end of the day is going to be beneficial to almost everyone, except for those that like this slow pace.
I will try to answer how I understand this. It's a not very scientific approach. It is rather about how digital transformation is about adding incremental digital features into already established business or product. So let's say you are insurance company. You can buy insurance via booking meeting with an agent, or you can send a paper letter to get some stuff back out of this company. So digital transformation often meant let's let those people use email to contact us, or let's let them talk with us via chatbot and have a ticketing system. But at the back end, still you had the same stuff, right? Working on people contacting with each other, moving papers here and there, working on the same systems. And sometimes digital transformation also, in my view, meant adding stuff that is a basic need of digital natives. So I will try to use this example of online banking. So when I was 20 years old and the internet became more and more popular, probably some people at the Polish banking institutions understood that this internet thing kind of becomes a big thing. Let's also have a way of interacting with our customers there. And they've created mobile banking interfaces because it was needed. That it was yet another channel, but the whole banking institution was still the same, right? It was just a channel to achieve the results. And the acceleration, in my view, often means like throwing the table, like making the whole thing end-to-end digital, making something sometimes totally new that is not interacting with those systems, and it's not an incremental added value, but it's basically sometimes something completely new. This example of Żabka stores, right? So autonomous shops it's like totally different thing in many ways, right? I assume logistics, how you interact with this, the workforce needed, the SLA process, the payment process. It's a completely something new. It's like going ahead of a curve. It's not incremental addition of something to those shops. So that's one example. And the other example I would be looking at is a concept of virtual try-ons, which either can be implemented as an addition to e-commerce shop. Let's say you're buying jewelry and you would like to see how it looks in the web when you're doing e-commerce. That's a fine feature. Is it crucial for your success? I don't know, maybe. But think about the model when you have a mobile app which creates jewelry in 3D using machine learning. So you basically design this jewelry in your mobile phone just like you want it. Once you finished it, you click order. It becomes a project that is being accepted or not accepted by the jewelry maker. They ask you some questions and they send you out this ring to you or part of jewelry to your home. And you don't have to do anything because it's a totally different stuff, right? So I would argue that this is like going in maybe not different direction, but not looking back. It's like building something sometimes totally new.
And I think it's also about being much bolder than before. I mean, all the examples you mentioned are large changes towards the market and trying to predict what's going to happen with it. And I think right now there is this feeling that if we just do an incremental change, that's probably not going to make an impact. So you need to really test the market, really think ahead, really plan bold and ambitiously. And this is exactly like the story you mentioned around the Żabka unmanned stores. It's a bold thing to build the biggest unmanned stores network in Europe. But this is exactly what Żabka did within the last 12 months, which is extremely impressive.
I'm looking at my notes. So let's pretend we've explained the whole concept. We've discussed different industries. We've discussed what acceleration is in terms of how fast you should go faster. Maybe not tomorrow, but this evening. But also let me understand, Marek, what does it take? What do you think it is needed to pull this off? So that would be my first question. And the second, also, when to stop?
Yeah. So what does it take? I mean, it always starts with people. So it always starts with a team that's extremely capable, ready for a challenge, had done similar things before, delivered a lot of innovation before. So it starts with an extremely talented group of people that can execute on your really bold and ambitious mission. And that's not everyone. So it's not a job for everyone, but it's a job for those that have experience, have the skills. So I would definitely make it as a first thing. It also takes someone, like we touched on it before, that right now the expectation of the users is for the product to be seamless, to be beautiful. So it takes someone who understands it, who understands what a beautiful software is and how to create it. Second of all, it takes as you really want to move forward, you need to find a way to have all the needs that are all the things that are needed for a specific product to be able to be met really quickly. So you need to have this wide range of skills at hand. And if you want to build something within 3 months, if it's a digital product, you need to have the design team ready to build your mockups, your concepts. You need to have the developers, you need to have the project teams, you need to have the DevOps to make it possible to go live. You need to have the product people, and they all need to be there available. If not, it will cause you delays. And last but not least, you need to be ready to adapt at any time. If the market changes within those months of you building, if you get a new piece of feedback from the users that you think changes the concept, so you need to be really flexible, really open to changes, really open to adapt, remembering why you are building this thing, because you're not building it for yourself, you are building it for the market and for the users. So that would be my 3 things. What do you think? Is there anything else which is important?
Yeah, so I will read out a comment from Tatiana because I think it's pretty cool, and I can agree with it. So she says, if I may define fast, I would say it's anticipating market needs. The customer does not know yet what they will need, but since the product service is on the market, they can't imagine not using it. So touching upon this, I would say what is required is the ability to peek behind the corners. So the road looks straight ahead, but there are some obstacles, and you should peek behind the corner to understand what's there, what kind of needs might be there. And you can approach this, in my view, 2 ways: either by observing what as I mentioned before, very young people are doing and trying to get understanding of what it might become later on as a more mature, more desirable market need. And also, it's not about the market need, but also how people are interacting with things. And this can be done by different ways of doing market research, quantitative or qualitative. So you need to have a good partner in that. And the second thing you could do as looking behind the corner is to working with companies that specializing in understanding what the future might be, and hiring strategists and digital specialists in terms of digital acceleration. This will be me here advertising our company that we've invested in, Pilot 44. This is especially what they are working on with bigger corporates. We try to understand what the future will be before you commit to it, right? So that's the one. The second thing I would mention is, and this is pretty hard to get to tangible and to how to measure this, but you need to have some kind of a recklessness of a management team. And recklessness can be viewed as something negative, but also it can be viewed as something positive, right? Elon Musk, I'm not a huge fan of him because of many things, but clearly he's reckless in his decision making, and I think it's a value for him how he works. And often management teams can be too cautious, too anxious, too afraid of a change, and just sprinkle a bit of recklessness, and it just might be better, especially in those very rapidly accelerating, changing times. So this would be my second thing. And I ask you about when to cut. So the third thing I would mention forgiveness for failure, and understanding that when you are accelerating very fast and peeking behind the corners, more often than not you will be failing. So the processes to cut things very fast, and processes to build and destroy in a very effective manner. And I think this destroyed part is often overlooked, because when you are trying something new, you tend to get lost in it. You think it's the most important thing in your life because you've done this. It's not true, it's just business. So if you don't define traction before you're rolling something out, if you don't meet the traction, be ruthless in killing something or on not continuing something. Too often than not, I am seeing zombie projects that are something, but they do not accelerate in enough pace.
Yeah.
So
and those zombie projects is an interesting concept, because not only that there are zombie projects that should be killed, but they're also blocking resources to do something that can be impactful and meaningful. So I think this willingness to be honest with yourself that something didn't work, and then move the attention to something new and pivot can be really, really impactful. And maybe I think sometimes it can be also a challenge that you don't know what else to try. So then maybe you can reach out for help and have someone who will help you understand what can be the next pivot, because it can be also a zombie just for lack of alternatives.
Yeah, might be. I see a good question from Rafał. More personal, but I'm curious, without which apps or online services that were created recently, you can't imagine your life now. I can start. One, it's a local. It's fixly.pl, which is an application that you can book different sorts of services and experts, mostly focused on things that you have to do around home, like painting or plumbing or electricity. I just moved to a new home, so for me it's a huge issue. And before that, finding good experts in a field was disastrous experience. You had to rely usually on opinions on your friends locally. So, hey, do you know someone who can, repair this very fast? Can you recommend someone? That was a visual process. Right now, it's fully digital. It works seamlessly. you have rating systems, you have SLA systems. The app requires zero thinking from your side. So I use it frequently, and I always discuss this thing with the other side of the marketplace, the people who are helping me, and they're saying that this is something that changed their life as well. They are seeing much more bookings for much bigger regions. They're much more visible, and they think that the quality of the service matters. And I think that the whole thing improved the society dramatically, as dramatic as it might sound. But before this app, my view was that when the market was not efficient, so if someone did something wrong or under-delivered, there was no penalty. Right now, there will be a penalty, so the weak organizations or people who are under-delivering will be out of the market. And the companies and the people who are the best, delivering the best customer service, the expertise, will win the market. So it's a win-win for both sides. What about you, Marek?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Notion probably is something. Notion is something that came to my head immediately. It just changed the way I make notes and work and live. So it helped me a lot. I like innovation, so all the quick commerce solutions. When I was recently in the States, I was using Gorillas and also in Germany. So it was brilliant experience and something that I remember a few years back, I thought would be impossible, that you can just think about something to buy and then you have it in 10 minutes. That's amazing. What else? I think those two came to my head, yeah.
So I have another one, and then we can wrap it up. And this will be example of very cool corporate innovation, I believe, created out of the necessity of external market forces and created, in my view, in very fast and efficient way. So kudos for the people behind it. It's Blik payment system. It's very popular in Poland. I think it became one of the leaders, if not the leader on the market. It's ingenious how fast you can pay for things using your mobile phone. You can transfer your money via mobile phone to other people very efficiently. So it's not only paying for business, but also between the individuals. And what I have understand, this is so effective that it's being rolled out across Europe. I have to check this if it's still true. But I couldn't live without Blik. I just yesterday I bought something from an individual on some local community groups, and no need for cash, no need for coming to wait for money transfer. It was like paid on the go, safe and secure. So this is the system I loved, and I recommend you. So I think it was I hope I had fun. It was a cool conversation. You had fun, Marek?
I had fun. Thank you. Thanks.
Great. So maybe we'll discuss something next week if they allow us to. Thanks for the questions for the audience, because I've read on the internet that every company has to be a media company, and then it mentioned that media has to be entertaining. So the ending joke from me would be that if you go to stock market right now and you look at how the stocks are looking like, so this is also digital acceleration. They're accelerating very fast, but into the wrong direction. But hopefully they will accelerate as fast again to the other side, and let's keep fingers crossed and let's help them, all of those companies building great digital stuff. I'm Radek Zaleski, partner of Netguru. And
I'm Marek Talarczyk, the CEO of Netguru.
Yeah, see you next time. Bye.
Cheers.